You are exactly on time.
Sir, I'm 30 seconds early.
Gentlemen, I would like to call the regular meeting of the Odessa City Council, February 3rd, 2020 to order. We have today Pastor Steve Ferris from First Baptist Church to lead us in the invocation. Pastor?
Lord, we just want to stop and thank you for the beautiful day that you've given us today. And Lord, you have blessed this area of the world abundantly. And Lord, we want to stop and thank you for those who give service, who serve on this council, who serve in this city. And Lord, who are public servants, or our emergency teams, and all the ones involved. Lord, we just want to give you thanks for them. Lord, it's a sacrifice for them to do it. And Lord, we pray for wisdom and clarity as you speak through this tonight. Lord, we pray for this nation. Lord, we do desire that unity come back, and Lord, it's not happening right now, and we just need your guidance as a nation. So Father, we just ask you to guide and direct each and everything that's said, and again, we want to give you the praise and the glory, and thank you for all that you do for us. In Jesus' name, amen.
First up is the agenda approval. Do we have any?
Mayor, I'd like to add an item underneath my name, the appointment of Barbara Telford to the Parks and Rec Committee.
All right. And anyone else have any other changes? Kyle?
No change, but I would note that I did pass out a task order that I'm going to ask for your approval at the end of the meeting under my name tonight.
And the only thing that it's not on here, but I'd like to discuss a workshop to discuss a potential of building a new Destin Community Center when it gets to that point. All right, so I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
Got a motion?
Second.
Got a second? It's coming. Technology. Vote is unanimous, so moved. Item number 1, approval of the minutes of November 18th, 2019 regular city council meeting.
Motion to approve.
I got a motion, I got a second. Any discussion? Seeing none? Vote is unanimous, so moved. Tonight we don't have any proclamations, recognitions, or special presentation announcements. So we will, let's see, there we go. So we'll move right into item number 3, which is public comments on the agenda items that are not public hearings and any other matters not on the agenda. I don't have any cards, so I'll look out in the audience. Does anyone have anything they'd like to weigh in at this time? Just a reminder, you will have an opportunity at the tail end of the meeting for public comment as well after we've completed our meeting here tonight before we adjourn. Seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close this portion of the meeting. Lance, take it away, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 4A is regarding the labor attorney retainer. We have been using this firm for nearly 20 years. They've recently asked to raise the retainer to $2,500 annually, which gives us a great deal of service from that $2,500, unlimited phone call consultations along with some other investigative services. Normally we spend less than $4,000 with this firm, but from time to time it is very important that we have access to a firm like this. So I would ask that council would take this into consideration and approve this.
I will entertain a motion at this time.
I move to authorize the city manager to execute the agreement ATC 1 with Mr. Rob Larkin of Allen, Norton, and Blue, PA for labor and employment law representation.
Thank you, sir. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second, Mayor.
I have a second. Discussion, Rodney? I saw your card up. No? Okay. All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and take this to a vote. Vote is unanimous, so moved. Lance?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 4B is with regards to the Coleman Lake Pool elevation report. A few meetings ago, council had asked staff to look into the possibility of raising the water level there at the request of some of the residents. Mr. Burgess has made contact with the engineering firm of Scott Jenkins, who did the original work on that property. Mr. Jenkins has indicated that he would not recommend raising the level because of the possibility in a severe storm event that it would not leave enough of a gap to prevent the water from overflowing Main Street, which has happened in the past during major storms. But staff was asked to bring this item back for council consideration, so we know which direction you would like us to go.
Mr. Morgan?
So, from the report, I don't know if it specified the dates that it overflowed, but I know one was in April of 2014 when we got an absurd amount of rain in 36 hours, and pretty much tons of parts of the city flooded there. And then the other...
17 inches or something? It was ridiculous.
Yeah, it was a bad flood.
1,000-year rain.
Yeah, and that wasn't the only part of town that flooded. And then prior to that, Captain Green, do you know the last time it flooded? Hurricane? Do you know what hurricane it was? Dennis? Yeah, so it's flooded twice in my lifetime, probably. Maybe Opal, maybe Dennis, and then...
It wasn't Opal, I know that.
Sure, so it floods not regularly at all. But the benefits I see to this is, one, that lake's going to use a heck of a lot less pesticides, and so there's going to be good environmental benefits to raising this. And we've been asked by the majority of the property owners on that lake to raise it back to the historical levels. I know the report said it was down only a couple of inches, which may or may not be true, but I would like to see the, because I don't believe that it's at any more risk of flooding now. It'll be, we're not increasing the risk great, so I would like to see the city get a price on, one, raising the dam to the requested height that the Lake Coleman homeowners asked, and get a price on raising the dam, and then also get a price on raising the dam with a spillway that can be opened prior to a big flooding event, and bring us back 2 quotes.
That's a great
So-
alternative.
so
I got
moved.
Rodney.
I'll make that into a motion. Or
Go ahead, let's make a motion, second, and then we'll have further discussion. Rodney's up next. Go ahead.
So I would move for the city of Destin to obtain 2 quotes, one to raise the dam level to the height requested by Lake Coleman homeowners, and the second quote to have a dam at the same level, but to have a spillway that can be opened prior to flooding events.
Believe that request was 1 foot, correct, Jim? 10 to 12 inches. You want to go ahead and put that in
Second.
motion? He did. Okay, I got a motion, got a second. Mr. Braden?
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I would support that, because I know it's, my daughter lives in Twin Lakes, and they've had the same issues with their lakes. They're shallow, and they just get scum on top, and it dies and sinks to the bottom. They can't do anything with them. Can't do anything with the lakes unless they dig them deeper. And like Councilman Martyr said, or Morgan said, it was less pesticides and stuff, and it's ruined a lot of that lake. I know in the back it smells because of just the old sediment and stuff. It's so shallow now. So I think instead of ruining a lot of that lake and upsetting a lot of the homeowners because of a storm that might come 100 years from now, we need to raise it and put a spill gate or something there so it can be opened up.
Yeah, and it seemed like in the report, the biggest concern was the catastrophic rain / hurricane event. And I think Mr. Morgan's spillway idea where you could open up pre-storm, which means for a short period of time, the lake level would go down prior to the storm in anticipation. And then once all that passes, they could go ahead and close that spillway and increase the level. I think that's a great compromise. So we have a motion, we have a second. Does anyone else want to weigh in on this before we take this to a vote? Seeing none? The vote is unanimous, so moved. Just a question for staff. How long do you think it'll be to give you a decent timeline to get this in, a bid?
A bid to do the design or the work?
How about
To do-
both?
I guess
the
we're
design.
looking for a price, and then we can make a decision
Okay.
on whether or not to get it in the budget or
I'll call
use.
Mr. Jenkins in the morning and relay your wishes, and we'll get right on it.
Thank you.
Okay, just put that in that action report that we're getting now, and that'll help everybody know when we're going to see it again. All right, thank you. Sir?
Item 4C is an airport road update. At the last meeting, council directed staff to bring back some prices to install the radar signage at the entrance to the curb in both directions. There are a lot of different options when it comes to radar signage. We picked some middle-of-the-road signage, which we feel would accomplish what we thought that the Public Works, Public Safety Committee, and the council was after. And it comes out to an amount not to exceed $17,500 roughly. We can go cheaper than that, or we can go much more expensive than that if council wishes to exercise this option at this time. There was some discussion at the last meeting that maybe perhaps we wanted to wait, and I would ask for council's direction on that right now.
Anyone want to weigh in? Mr. Mitchell?
Thank you, Mayor. As we talked about at the last meeting, a lot of people are in agreement that these signs are effective for one time and one time only. Once people see them, they realize they're there and they're not going to do anything. We joke about it, but it's been, I guess, documented over the years that you get these young kids and they take pictures of the sign to see how fast they can go. Okay, it says 20. Let me see if I can get it to beep 40. Okay, we don't need that right now. With all the other things that we have going on Airport Road, at this time, I think this would be a waste of money because once somebody sees it, when the sheriff's office puts out their temporary trailers, and the last one they put out was extremely effective for one time. It was a blue and red light on it. It was a little bit different than the last ones, and you're driving down Airport Road and you see it, you say, oh Lord, there's a police car, let me slow down. But once you go past that one time, you know it's nothing and you don't care. So at this point, although it's a good idea, I don't think it's worth the money.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Braden?
If we put these signs up and it's, goes excess of 15 miles an hour, can we have like a ramp that all of a sudden just raises up in the middle of the road? Go along with it?
If they're exceeding that limit,
Yeah.
kind of like what they catch airplanes on the aircraft carrier with?
That's right. The slowdown that's been put in the road now, who put that down and who authorized it?
Our Public Services Department put that down, and it was one of the suggestions made in one of the safety studies that we had done within the past 2 years.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Mayor.
Well, would you like a motion and
So I
Or
believe,
would
and
you
Kyle,
just-
correct me if I'm wrong, if the consensus is to take no action, then I just need a consensus to hold off.
Ms. Ramswell would like to weigh in. Go ahead, ma'am.
Thanks. So I'm sort of torn because I feel like we need to do something. As it stands now, if we do nothing on this particular item, how long is it going to be before something is done to Airport Road? I know we're looking at the paving thing, but we've got to go through that process. How long would we be without something?
Well, let me give some kudos to our staff first, because they've actually installed new chevrons on the corner. They installed the new reflective devices that go on the outer lines and the inner lines of the road. And then they've also just recently installed the slow down signs. So those three things were all recommendations from a safety audit that was received within the past 2 years. My understanding from today is that the engineering firm that is doing the work for FDOT is almost concluding their survey work out there. And unfortunately, I don't know the time frame yet for when work could take place, but I know that they are wrapping up the engineering portion of it. So at one point, and I will double check just to get a better date, but at one point they had talked about the June, July timeframe for actually doing work out there.
So 6 months-ish, we hope. Okay. I have not seen what's been done, but I'll go that way tomorrow and take a look at it. That's great if that's been done.
Mr. Destin.
Yeah, I kind of echo the sentiment that it's a bit too expensive, probably for the bang for our buck, given some of the range of prices on the radar signage. However, and Charlie might be able to weigh in on it, is it possible to get the trailer that fires off the radar and pops back the speed for the drivers? Is it possible to get it out there for a few months until we get the high friction road resurfacing aggregate put down?
The last ones that I put out there, I had to borrow from other districts. I can see if they'll loan me one to put out there for, I don't know if I can put it out there for a couple of months, but we can try and see.
Yeah, that's my recommendation. Let's see, for now, if we can get one of those borrowed, and we'll just see what we can do.
Mr. Mitchell.
One other thing I want to remind everybody about, and I'm going to talk to Captain Nix about this later, but what's better than anything is his officers writing tickets that we talked about, the increased enforcement. That's better than any sign, okay?
They were there today.
And I understand staff is going to be meeting with the sheriff's office to start our public relations campaign on, don't fly down airport roads. So that's a work in progress. That's going to be better than any trailer.
Mr. Braden.
Thank you. Captain Nix, did you not say that those signs worked basically for a short period of time, like we discussed, and then people ignored them? Is that your experience with them?
For the most part, but I can tell you the one in downtown Fort Walton that they have that's actually a fixed sign, it's not on a trailer, that has the solar panels on it, that sign still gets my attention when I come through there. So I'm not going to tell you that everybody ignores those signs. You're going to have people that just like anything else, they're not going to pay attention to the signs, but I believe they can be effective if they're put in the right place. I think putting a trailer out there and leaving a trailer for 2 or 3 days, 3 weeks, whatever the case may be, I think at some point that becomes ineffective to an extent. But I believe like a fixed sign, I think one trailer, I can't remember, those trailers are expensive. They're like $15,000 a piece. But I think you can get 2 of the fixed signs with the solar panels.
They're still expensive.
Are they as expensive as a trailer? I don't think they're near as expensive, but as many times as I drive downtown Fort Walton, that sign, the signs that they have still get my attention, so.
Yeah, because you get tooling along or at 35 when you come over Brooks Bridge and that sign hits you, it's like, ooh, it's a reminder more than anything.
I'm like Councilman Mitchell. I'm going through Fort Walton. I'm afraid of getting written a ticket going through there, so I slow down. So maybe if we enforce this, start writing more tickets on Airport Road, it'll help slow them down. I don't know.
I believe the sign with an enforcement effort combined would probably be better if you had one on each side. It's like going through a small town. Sometimes when people are traveling, they say, yeah, we're going to go through Mississippi. There's those small towns that they tell you, if you go through, you need to slow down. So I think if you kind of set that precedence, then people will slow down.
Well,
So I have a question because I remember a couple years ago, we had a horrible problem with speeding going down the main Country Club Drive road in Indian Bayou, and I had requested a trailer and said, put it in my yard. I don't care, put it in my yard. Everyone can be mad at me. And it actually seemed to help quite a bit, and they took the numbers and gave me a printout of what, the high end, the low end, everybody that went through there, and I thought it was really illuminating. Is this the same kind of trailer that we're talking about that was in my yard that would look at doing on airport? Because I didn't realize there was a charge for it per se.
The one that Councilman Destin asked me about is like the trailer that we put out on right before the curves on each side of the road last year to get everybody to slow down. That is actually a speed trailer. The ones we were talking about in downtown Fort Walton are the ones that are actually fixed. They're actually on poles. You don't have to move them around, and they have a solar panel that keeps them charged. So you don't have to take them in every so often to get them charged up. Some of those trailers come with the solar panels on them. They're more expensive. And then some come where you actually have to take them back to the office and charge them up to bring them back out.
But there's a charge for both of those to the sheriff's department, or?
No,
No,
we're not
so
going to
the
charge you for it. No.
15,000 you were talking about was for the mounted.
Well, the
Permanent.
trailers that we were talking about, if you were to purchase trailers to keep out here permanently to move around the city, they're pretty expensive. They're like $15,000 or $16,000 a piece. But for you to use them, no ma'am, we didn't charge you for them.
Gotcha, thank you.
What I'd like to do is just entertain a motion. Let's make a decision here once for all, so Lance and the team can move on or move off, depending on which way you guys want to go.
I'll just make a motion to instruct staff to work with Charlie. And Charlie, if you're able to round up a few trailers and borrow them, let's give it another shot for maybe a week or two, and then we'll reassess and see what we want to do.
Got a motion? Got a second? Any further comment? Seeing none? Ayes have it, so moved.
Item 4D is regarding Gulf Shore Drive's restriping. This is a request authorization for payment. Back in the October timeframe, we had some resurfacing done on Gulf Shore Drive. Early in October, the decision was made by staff members that we should put temporary striping down for safety purposes, which is correct. I mean, we could have opted to put cones all the way along there to delineate where the side of the road was and where turn lanes were at. We could also have done it in that manner. But staff at that point chose to have temporary paint put down. Once the final coat of asphalt was put down, then we had the permanent striping put down. The dilemma that I found myself in when looking at these invoices, and this again was in the October timeframe, so this is a housekeeping matter. The dilemma I found myself in was by our purchasing manual. I could look at those as two separate contracts, as two separate incidents, two separate items, and I would be within my right to approve them because they both individually fell under $15,000. But passing the straight face test, I look at them as an aggregate amount, and trying to be transparent, it exceeds the $15,000. So for that reason, I chose to bring it to council to make them aware of it. The work is already completed, but I did want you to be aware that we exceeded $15,000 if you aggregate these two projects together. I'm asking for council's approval to pay the contractor.
Ray, clear our sheet there. I double tapped it. Would anyone like to make any comments? If not, let me entertain a motion. Let's go ahead and do a motion in a second, and then we'll have any discussion. Go ahead.
I'm gonna make a motion.
I move to approve payment of $19,552.35 to Emerald Coast Striping for the temporary and permanent striping associated with the Gulf Shore Drive Improvement Project completed in October 2019.
Thank you, sir. I got a motion. I got a second by Mr. Destin. Mr. Braden, you're up.
Lance, so is this the two invoices? I know somebody said that we got billed twice or paid twice as much for striping this. Is that where that come from? Is they actually striped it one time and then striped it again?
So that's true. It did get striped twice. The first one is the temporary paint striping that was done before the final coat of asphalt was put on.
But it wasn't two invoices for the same job. It was
Right,
two
okay.
separate jobs.
Have we figured out why we can't get striping done? I mean, everybody else can get their roads paved and striped, but for some reason, we get our roads paved and then striped it whenever it's convenient for the contractor, or, I mean, why'd they do temporary striping and then come back and put thermal in there?
In this case, they did the milling of the road first, and that's when the temporary striping went down. The final coat was not completed for approximately 2 to 3 weeks later, and that's after that coat went down, that coat of asphalt went down is when the final striping went down at that point. And that was the thermoplastic, is that correct? Yeah.
Why is that not part of their price or their job? I mean, if they know they're gonna tear it up, you know, mill it up and tear it up, grind it up, they're going to have to temporarily restripe it. It sounds like they're just double dipping, or, you know, we paying for stuff à la carte, and, I mean, it just sounds a little ridiculous that they're gonna mill it up, grind the stripes up, and then say, hey, we better, you know, charge another $5,000 to temporary stripe it for a couple weeks. I mean, it seemed like somebody dropped the ball on that one to me. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Braden. Ms. Mitchell.
I had one question, Lance. I saw this. This is a general question. This invoice is back from October, okay? And again, we're going to approve it tonight, that's fine, but from a billing standpoint, just as a protocol, when the city gets a bill, how long do we typically take to pay it? I mean, it seems like a long time that they're waiting, or, I mean, what is our typical, we get a bill, do we pay it within 30 days, do we pay it in 60? It's a protocol question.
Typically, we like to pay bills within 30 days of receipt.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I got a motion, I got a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none? Ayes have it, so moved.
Item 4E is regarding the future land use map and zoning map alignment, and we have an update from Mr. Zanguzzi.
Thank you, City Manager. Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council, and also the public. Navigating the future is tough business. However, if one is judicious, methodical, and thoughtful, good things happen. Now, why am I saying this? A year ago, about this time, you tasked my office to undertake the work of aligning the city's zoning map with the future land use map. That was a task that was outstanding from a previous comprehensive plan amendment update, and was pretty much in limbo. My staff and I took the work at heart, and we came back to you and identified 15 areas of conflict, and together those areas contained a total of 468 parcels in the city. Diligently and methodically, we worked through to align area by area, parcel by parcel, and today I'm here to tell you that that work is complete. And what is most gratifying to me throughout this effort is that out of the 15 areas and 468 parcels. My staff and I managed to create a total of 4 non-conforming uses. Now, I can tell you that by any standard or measure in the practice of planning and zoning, that is simply remarkable. Because in the majority of cases, what often happens is that it often results in significant non-conforming uses being created and triggering major litigation cases. We avoided that here. To that end, I would like to thank the City Council for the guidance and the patience that you afforded us as we worked through that effort. I also like to thank the City Manager for giving me the time to work with my staff and also the resources that we needed to successfully complete the work. In addition, I would like to thank my fellow department heads and their staff. They were helpful throughout this entire process. And in particular, I'd like to thank our GIS manager, Corey Anderson. I can tell you that his meticulous attention to detail was simply exemplary. And I would like to pay a special tribute to the planning staff in my department, in the planning division, who spearheaded this entire effort, in addition to their daily work for planning projects, plan reviews, and ordinance preparation. And I would like them to stand, because I asked them to be here and to be recognized for a job well done. So we have Tim, Sam, and Lauren. You're among the best. Last but not least, I'd like to thank the city's land use attorney for her expertise in land use law. Now, we say in our business that behind a good planner is a great land use attorney. And I can tell you that Kim is one of the best there is. And I say so in particular for two reasons. Unlike most, she understands both the role and the value of land use regulations in communities. And that's special. Finally, let me close by saying, so what's next for us? We have some cleanups to do. If you recall, we rezoned a few parcels recently. One was the parking lot, the city's parking lot on Seibert, and then the other one was the cement plant. We will need to update our future land use map so that those areas are reflected for the classifications they're now in. That work is going to the LPA next month, and will be coming your way here in March. And after that, you'll have the opportunity to codify and have a brand new set of maps that are both synchronized. I call them Siamese twins. Your future land use map will be virtually identical to your zoning map. And I can't tell you how beautiful that will be for the development community and everybody else who wants to do business with the city of Destin. And it empowers us, you and the administration, to best guide the development in the city when those two maps are synchronized. So once again, I really want to appreciate your patience. That's why I said navigating the future is always a tricky business, but we managed to handle it. I'll take any questions that you may have.
Louis, you left off one person, you. You deserve a round of applause as well for all.
No, I believe in teamwork, and I got a great team right now. Thank you. Any questions that you have?
I think on to the LDC.
Yes, I'll potentially have an update for you, probably second meeting in February, about how we're going to approach the update of that ordinance. Okay, thanks.
Fantastic work. Thank you for
Thank
all
you.
you've done. I think you've done in 1 year some unraveling of problems that have probably accumulated over a decade. So I understand the task that y'all been faced with, and it's greatly appreciated. Tremendous job for you and your entire team.
Thank you, sir. Lance, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 4F, the Development Review System Software Update, and we have Mr. Warren here for that.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I guess this is kind of an extension of what Mr. Zaguzzi just got talking about with his staff. As you know, we started this process in October, and it has taken a citywide effort in order to get where we're at now. And we are now in the heavy lifting stage. And all the community development staff has been extremely helpful, as well as IT, public services, and GIS, and as well as code compliance. But we continue to be in that heavy lifting stage where we're looking at our processes and how we can continue to improve them, not only through simplifying the process, but also improving it through technology. And there are real accomplishments being made right now as we continue to build that software. Again, the goal to go live with this is in January of 2021, but we are in that heavy lifting stage, and we are, I believe, to be ahead of schedule right now. And we are making great accomplishments, as Dr. Ranswell said, kind of unraveling some previous processes and things like that. Our staff is doing a great job with that.
Mr. Braden.
Thank you, Webb. It's probably way too early now, but I just want to kind of put something in your head you can be thinking about. As we get closer to the end, could there be something that we could put out for, and I'm going to say for the contractors, that they could start getting familiarized with it, and so that because that's what they're going to be using, or can look at their permitting stuff, maybe, so there's not, I don't know, something they can study or look at, eventually, so it's just not a shock to them when it goes live all of a sudden one day. Is that something possible?
So part of this process, what we do is once we have our processes designed within the system, we will actually bring in some of our customers, which will be our contractors and some residents and some businesses, and we'll actually get them to help us test the product and make sure it's not only aligning with our internal processes, but the external processes is aligning with the expectations that we have for that. And so there will be some interaction with that as once we get to the point where our processes are put into the system and we can begin to test it.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Ms. Ramswell.
Thank you, Mayor. I have various Post-its here with reminders, and one of them was, and I think you guys may be doing that now, but a notification process of when new and edited ordinances are passed. Did y'all work on a process for that and how it actually goes in the system and how the public is informed of the new ordinance? Whomever, I'm sort of looking at everyone.
I'm going to pass over to Ray because Ray is handling this process.
When a new ordinance is passed, we send it to Municode to be codified. And while it's being codified, it's posted on the website as well, online.
Okay, great, because I
And
know
once
there
it's
was
codified, then
yeah, there was a period of time, I guess, when it wasn't done for whatever reason, but now we're up on it, and it's.
Yeah.
And I like too that we have started receiving an email that showed, and I don't know if this was just a random occurrence, but I appreciated it. But we as a council received an email and it said this ordinance was passed. It was about this, this, this on this day, and it was a whole list. And I thought that was really helpful for us to see and just sort of go, ah, that's what happened to that. Because sometimes we have so much going on, you can't remember everything that passed or whether it's in second reading or where it is in the process. So I thought that was terrific. So I don't know if that's part of a process or not, but it was great. The other thing I had is we had talked at one point, and because we're talking about processes, the allowable hours and days of construction, we had talked about that in some past meeting about amending that, and I don't know that we ever followed up on it or if we did follow up and y'all had something, but I have it as a sticky note reminder to myself, so I just thought I'd bring it up.
We will make sure that is on the current task list and bring an answer back to you at the next meeting.
Thanks. Great job on this as well.
Announcements?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a few quick announcements. A couple of weeks back, we received a letter from the state addressed to the mayor regarding our audits, our annual audits that we have done. They noticed that there was a deficiency listed for the past 3 years that we had not corrected, and that was that we had not established minimum reserves policy, which there's nothing good or bad about that. It's just they noticed that we hadn't corrected it. Staff would recommend at some point at council's discretion that we do establish a minimum reserves policy. The minimum reserve can be whatever council wants it to be. So, I mean, if you want it to be $1,000, we can make it $1,000. Traditionally in Florida, we look to have somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 to 6 months of operating capital in case we have a catastrophic emergency. But that is still completely up to council. Where that money comes from is up to council. It could come out of the investments, which is probably where I would say that it should come out of, because we would only pull it out of there if we had a catastrophic emergency. But if council can give me a little direction, if you want us to bring back an item for that, we can clear this up with the state. And like I said, it's council's decision as to how much, if any, they want to put in reserves for this. It will just correct that deficiency on our audits. And we have until middle of March to officially respond back to the state. Mr. Farmer did a preliminary response, but I wanted to get with council before we had our official response from the mayor.
Ms. Ramswell, then you, Mr. Braden.
Thank you. So when I saw that letter, I started going back through our minutes and I rewatched the video from that meeting. And one of the questions I have is, nowhere from the state does it say it's a requirement. It's a recommendation. And in fact, that letter that was in our boxes from the 16th, it says that we don't necessarily have to take corrective action, but they want at least a letter explaining why we didn't. And so I'm just wondering, because we explained our rationale in that meeting on September 16th, could we not have written a letter or base a letter response to them on what we had discussed in that meeting?
Yeah, because we voted that down 5-2,
Right.
so that's kind of our rationale. We voted no.
Absolutely, and we offered, various reasons. So I'm just wondering, I mean, is it, when they say recommendation, is it really not a recommendation? Is it a requirement? Because it makes it sound like that's what they're telling us they want. They do this. Can you illuminate that?
I believe that they are simply following their process, and if it shows up 3 times, they are required to notify us. We're not required to put this in place. It's just considered to be a best practice in Florida. That's it. So if the council does not wish to do it, I don't
It's not a
believe
Florida statute or anything like that.
No.
Okay.
So I would say, instead of having to do something again, unless the council wants to go over this and rehash it, can't we just write the letter based on the actions we took on September 16th?
Absolutely, if that's council's desire.
I'll make the motion then to write a letter explaining why we made the decision we made based on our September 16th, 2019 meeting.
Second. Any further discussion on that? We already had that discussion the 16th. Seeing none? Ayes have it, unanimous, so moved.
Just a reminder that February the 17th, which would be our next meeting, is President's Day, so both our council meeting and the State of the City will be held the next day on Tuesday, the 18th, still beginning at our regular time, right, 6 o'clock? 6 o'clock. Finally, some news that most of you have been waiting a while to hear. The projects, grants, and contracts manager has been hired for the city. This is a gentleman out of Illinois, brings with him 20-plus years of experience working with Illinois government, specifically with HUD, has an extensive amount of grant writing experience as well as project management experience, multitasking several projects at the same time. His name is Jeff Kozad, and we expect him to arrive permanently on March 2nd. He actually came down today and did some house hunting already, so he's excited, and we're excited to have him on board. That's all I have, sir.
Thanks. What was the starting salary for that grant writer?
I believe, and I'll get you the exact amount, I believe it was right at the 70 mark. And Ms. Jankowski had done the market surveys to find out what the market minimums were, and we were right on it.
Okay, thank you.
All righty then. Your turn.
Finally. We've got, for 5A, the first reading of ordinance number 20-02-LC, an ordinance of the City of Destin, Florida, amending Articles 6, 7, 8, 11, and 12 of the Land Development Code to delete all references to the tiered land use system pursuant to the city's comprehensive plan, providing for findings of fact, providing for incorporation into the Land Development Code, providing for conflicting provisions, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date, and this is a public hearing.
Seeing how this is a public hearing, at this particular time, I'll open up the public comment for this ordinance. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to make a statement? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing portion of the public hearing, and I'll entertain a motion at this
I
time.
move that the City Council approve proposed ordinance 2002-LC on first reading, direct staff to advertise for a second reading.
I have a motion. And I have a second. Is any discussion?
I would just say this is long overdue, and I know it's been brought up several times when we have meetings, and I remember Mr. Braden bringing it up, that we'll look at something and it's still referencing tier, and I don't know how we managed to pass the last comp plan with some of that stuff still in there, but long time coming.
Yeah, and it's only the beginning. The LDC's got a lot of work, and our community development staff is going to be busy for the next 8 to 12 months just doing that. So I have a motion and I have a second. Seeing no further discussion, we'll take a vote. The vote is unanimous, so moved. Kyle?
Next, we have item 5B, the first reading of ordinance number 20-03-LC, an ordinance of the City of Destin, Florida, amending Article 2 of the Land Development Code, amending procedures for lot splits and lot line adjustments, providing for findings of fact, providing for incorporation into the Land Development Code, providing for conflicting provisions, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date, and this is a public hearing.
Thank you, sir. And at this moment in time, I'll open up the public comment on this public hearing. At this time, is there anyone in the audience that want to address this ordinance? Seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close the public comment portion of the public hearing, and I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion. I move to approve proposed ordinance 20-02-LC. Is that the wrong one? I thought I scrolled to the correct one. 2003-LC. Thank you.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. Is there any further discussion on this particular first reading of this ordinance? Seeing none? The vote is unanimous, so moved. Moving on to the consent agenda, item 6, A and B.
I'll make the motion to approve A and B.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. Any further comment? Seeing none? The vote is unanimous, so moved. Mr. Braden.
Can we get an update on the Royal Melbourne Heritage Park, please?
Yes, sir. The RFP for Captain Royal Melbourne Heritage Park was advertised, I think about 10 days ago. So it is out. I don't remember exactly the date that it's due back in. Should be in the four to 5 week from issue. So we are closer than we have ever been to breaking ground on that park.
As the Calhoun Park, Clement Taylor, I thought that money was with that park as well. Is that not right, or is that something totally separate?
The Clement Taylor Park renovation project is from the same pool of money. It's handled as a separate grant, and it is in the line now. It's in the queue to be approved, so that we can also send that RFP out shortly. The repairs for the seawall at Clement Taylor Park, a separate grant through FEMA because it was damaged by Hurricane Michael. That is moving forward. We're entering into the contract with the contractor so we can begin work on that wall and getting it fixed.
Awesome. So we could possibly be breaking ground on the Royal Melbourne Heritage Park in 60, 90 days? That's awesome. Thank you. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Braden. Ms. Ramsell.
I have a question about Clement Taylor Park, building on what he was asking. So is the design and everything you're speaking of, is that just for the seawall or for the whole park?
Two separate items. One specifically for the seawall, funded, will be reimbursed through FEMA. Second is the renovation project, which is just shy of $750,000 for renovations, total renovations of the playground, an addition of a new pavilion, all the pathways replaced, new bathrooms put on the property, the pier renovated, and the beach area renovated. That is part of the ORAC grant process, same as Captain Royal Melbourne. And it is being queued up for final approval from the county so that we can advertise that RFP also.
I'm trying to think how to best ask this. Did we ever get the final plans? I know there was some discussion that the fire district might be interested in utilizing part of that park, but I don't think we ever made a final decision.
Will be handled completely separate from the grant process. We carved that section that potentially could be used for another use out of the grant. So it can be used for another purpose in the future if council wants to use it for another purpose in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Ramsey, you also said you had an appointment?
I have, oh yes, I was just done with that topic.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Okay, so the first thing I actually wanted to bring up, well, I'll go ahead and, because Ms. Telford has been patiently waiting all evening, I would like to go ahead and nominate Barb Telford, who I know almost all of us here know after all her years working for the city, but I'd like to go ahead and nominate her. She's graciously offered to serve on the Parks and Rec Committee.
Second.
We have a nomination, a motion, and a second. I don't think there'll be any discussion. As usual, when you volunteer, you're it. All in favor? We shall vote.
You're stuck, Barb.
Thank you, Barbara, for your unselfish volunteerism. We appreciate
Yes,
it.
thank you so much. Okay, so the next item up I have is, I was on a conference call with the League of Cities, and they happened to mention a bill that was weaving its way through the Senate and the House. They're companion bills. And they cover the idea of cities or states, depending on whoever has jurisdiction, being responsible for signalizing any mid-block crossings. And in the example in the bill, they use the city of Destin as one of the reasons for a negative impact on government, because they say that we have 5 mid-block crosswalks between Airport and Stallman on 98, And for us to put in those signals would be approximately $1,035,661. So I immediately kind of went hark and spoke with Lance and Webb, and we were all looking into it. And we think that this data was pulled from before we did that FDOT project and added those in. So I'm not sure if y'all have done some additional homework on this, but they are using erroneous data in trying to pass this bill. And I'm not sure, other than us sending a note, sending emails, or how to respond, but I don't think it's right for them to try to pass something using us as an example when that example is incorrect.
So the bill's trying to do away with crosswalks?
They're trying to make any city that has them in a mid-block pay to put in a light instead of just having a mid-block crossing. So you can't
So we'd
cross,
have to
you
pay-
have to have a signal, or you have to remove that crossing. And it would be at the expense of the city, or if it's the state highway, the state.
So we would have to pay an impact fee to FDOT to put in like the crosswalks we currently have?
Well, we already did, I think we already did it. But I think what they were looking at is before this project, they were counting those blocks that we had them, but we didn't have the signals yet.
So
Now
it's
we do.
So it's an anti-crosswalk bill?
It's a
can help
pro,
explain
what
if you
happened is down in Satellite Beach, somebody was trying to cross the street and they just pushed their little button and they went, and little girl got run over. And so they're trying to say anywhere there's a crosswalk, you need to have a signal that stops traffic. So that's the genesis of the bill, and we have that, but they're saying we don't. And so that's the issue. They're using old data. Now, of course, if the bill passes, then anywhere else in the city where we have mid-block crosswalks without a signal or something, we would have to pay for it. And the same would be true all over the state. So essentially, they're trying to make the argument that this is not a good bill because of the cost to cities by using erroneous data.
So in our case, just so council knows, I did speak to Representative Ponder that morning before the committee went and informed him the data that was quoted in the report and gave him page and paragraph was incorrect, that those corrections had already been made in Destin. So he's aware, and he told me he took that forward.
Okay, well, I know the analyses has not been updated. They've not done another one that takes that out, but I just don't like us being used to prove a point that we've already handled. And
Preble, do you know of any other mid-block crosswalks that are unsignalized in the city?
there's several that are off 98, but I don't see how you'd put in a signal back, like on Beach or, by the schools. So I'm not sure how that would work, and that's some stuff that I think they're vetting out and trying to do various amendments to try to address those issues. But it's going to be a huge expense if this goes through, no matter what. Like they said, the other example, it was us and a street in Tallahassee, Monroe at Lake Ella, and they said the one example in Tallahassee was just $386,000 for one signal. So you can see how that could really add up. So anyway, I just wanted to bring this to everyone's attention and make sure that I'm not sure what we could do other than maybe have the mayor or the city manager write an official letter saying that we don't really have to offer an opinion one way or another, but at least let them know that this data is erroneous, because they have not done a follow-up analysis that removes us as the example.
I'd be happy to craft that letter and to reinforce what we've already told them. One thing, just so council knows, my understanding of what they're trying to push forward is if there's a yellow light there, then it needs to be replaced with a pedestrian activated red light. If it's just a crosswalk, I don't think it's part of this bill, because we have multiple mid-block crossings on Airport Road, on Commons Drive. On Commons Drive, we actually have the yellow lights, which would probably be impacted by this. But on Airport Road, there's multiple mid-block crossings that technically would not be impacted because there's no flashing yellow light. The theory is kind of like the radar signs. After a few days, people get numb to it. So I think they thought this little girl thought she was safe walking out there because there was a flashing yellow light, and as it turned out, the cars had become oblivious to that flashing yellow signal, and that's a shame right there.
Thank you. So that's the first thing I have. And then I wanted to follow up. I had sent an email, and I know you said you were looking into it, Lance, but I didn't hear. I believe it was the 1/20/20 meeting that we had talked about that vacation rental bill that was going through, and we discussed having the mayor write a resolution so we could send it into the legislature.
So the mayor and I signed off on a letter and have mailed that, and Ms. Kopp will be bringing forward the resolution at our next meeting.
Fantastic.
Yeah, because of the timeliness, they were in session. You know, the resolution wasn't done, but we sent a letter with our thoughts.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'd like to see, I'm sure the whole council would like to just see it. And then let's see, the last thing I have today is we have been talking for years. I harped on it for a few years, and then Councilman Marlar picked up on it and has started harping that intersection here at Henderson Beach and Commons. And we received a letter from the county, and it was regarding the new signal that we're putting in, and we had inquired about, you know, sidewalks and actually improving the lighting along that corridor. And they actually wrote and said, as a standard, Okaloosa County does not provide street lighting along county-owned and maintained roads. And that bothers me. I think it's a safety concern. I did do some research, and it's hard to determine, you know, remedies or solutions or what we can do, but the county's essentially telling us that we have to pay for it, or the citizens, the residents of that affected area would have to pay for it, and then we could do like an MSBU, which I'd like somebody that has more legal knowledge into, you know, whether that's Kyle, Kim, I'm not sure, but to look into that and see if that's really true. I mean, I would think the county, if it's their right-of-way, their land, they would have to provide for the safety of folks, which would include lights where necessary. So, anyway, whomever's appropriate to tackle that.
We'll look into it.
Fantastic. And I think that is all I have.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Mr. Mitchell.
Let me start by following up on what Dr. Ramswell just said. Lance, we talked about this briefly. Years past, when we got the refund from Gulf Power, part of that refund was for the county lights on Commons. Okay, so if they're willing, and there's no citizen payment there. There's no MSTU or MTSU, whatever. So my thing is, we ought to go back to them as a suggestion and point that out to them, because the powers to be there now don't remember that or weren't there then. And they're paying for those lights on the west side, so why can't they pay for one or two lights right here on the east side on Commons? Do we need a consensus or a motion or something just to get a letter, a follow-up letter? Okay, because I don't think they're aware of that. That's the big thing.
I'm happy to write back to them again.
Because, again, it contradicts, that information contradicts what they recently sent us. But in fairness, the people that wrote that letter weren't there and don't know about that, possibly that historical stuff. Okay, all right, that's number one. Okay, a couple of other things on the agenda. I have a discussion regarding the TDC funds for the Sheriff's Office. I know that's a work in progress. Okay, I know we have to do an application, and my request is once that application is done, that it come before the council for review. Okay, before it gets turned in, because we may be able to add something to it or whatever. It's too important to get this extra money for it to fall through the crack.
Yeah, and actually, when I was reviewing the minutes, or the video from the 16th, that happened to be the meeting that Greg Stewart came in, and he had said that April 20th of 2020 was when they needed to have from us the list of things that we wanted them to consider funding for the TDC. So we're in February. That gives us 2 months to start pulling together the things we've talked about over the past few months that we would like to see the TDC cover.
Would you guys, would the council like to send to our city manager a what you all individually perceive as necessary things to add to that and let him establish that list. And then I guess that'll give you a starting point of what to ask for.
In addition to what they think as
Right.
well.
Yep, yep. In other words, instead of just putting it all on Lance, just come up with some items he thinks we should add to the budget. This is kind of being driven by us. So I think it might be a good idea to communicate with Lance individually what's important you think that we ought to add to that budget. Is everybody, we can do that on a consensus. We don't need a motion for that, correct? Or how would you like to handle it, Lance, actually? I probably was a little presumptuous, sir.
No, that's great, and I would appreciate that input. Specifically, the input I would like is the new items that we're not currently providing to the public, that if my understanding of the statute is correct, it has to be a new item. So those new items that we could put on there for funding that would qualify for the additional 10%, I mean, I would specifically be interested in those items for sure.
Lance, do you remember when I came in and you and I sat down several years ago and we developed that list of items that was like our dream sheet to ask them? And I think it was like $2 million, and then we got $400,000, which was a great start. Do you by any chance still have that list of things that we had asked for at that time?
Let me dig. I rarely throw stuff out, so let me look in my archives.
Terrific, thanks. And my other question is, we have mentioned a few things over the past few months that would be good for it. Did anybody keep track of that? Is that in a chart somewhere? Because I honestly can't remember, and I don't want to go through every single video of every single meeting and try to listen for, TDC.
Well, I know some of the basic items, like additional folks on the beach, whether it be code enforcement or park rangers or sheriff's deputies, additional manpower or staff out there on the beach, helping to enforce the rules and regulations out there is for sure one of them, I know.
To that end, Captain Nix, just for clarity, because we were trying to remember this in Lance's office the other day, could you tell us the deputies that you have that are funded by the TDC? Is it one boat person, or is it both boat?
I have a total of 4. I have 2 beach units and 2 marine units.
Okay. So beach unit being the deputies that ride up and down on a scooter?
That's correct.
Okay.
They work Okaloosa Island and Destin.
Okay, great.
I'm just hoping that the funding that we're talking about doesn't compete with the funding that they already give me.
This is an addition to.
This is the additional 10% that I've been harping on for 4 years.
Okay. Also, not only do they fund the 4 deputies, but they also help with the funding of the spring break details that we use on Okaloosa Island and out here in Crystal Beach.
This is an attempt to get more stuff for you, okay, with extra money that we can ask for. Okay, well, that covers that. Captain, next while you're there, because we talked about this, could you give us an overview of any kind of enforcement action the last 2 weeks on Airport Road under our...
So basically, I asked for them to go back and check. When the council started talking about Airport Road, when you brought up just shortly, before you brought up the zero tolerance campaign, I asked the guys to step up enforcement on Airport Road, try to educate the public a little bit, especially since we had the amount of traffic crashes that we had in the curve. Since January 1st, we've done roughly 65 to 70 traffic stops. We give a lot more warnings than we do citations. Today, they were out there again today. I believe the mayor said that he saw them out there today, but what I've asked them to do is in between their calls, if they would work some of the problem areas that we have. Legion Drive's a problem area where we get complaints. Airport Road's another problem area where we get complaints for speeding. But I've asked them to work those areas. I've also have a traffic unit that's been assigned to District 3. Understanding District 3 is not just the city of Destin, but it's also Okaloosa Island, Niceville, Valparaiso area. So I've asked the traffic unit, I've got one that works the Alpha Charlie rotation and one that works the Bravo Delta rotation. I've asked them to step up their enforcement on Airport Road as well. So I'm getting them going in the right direction, but when I say educate the public, they're doing it right now with a lot of stops and a lot of warnings. So they are citing, they're not citing as many as they are warning, so.
And the good thing is, I believe Catherine's going to be meeting with your PIO, and they're going to be designing the public relations. So that's another big thing for them to start putting that out and doing advertisement. That goes a long way for education as well.
Yes, sir, we're going to meet tomorrow.
Fantastic.
At 9 o'clock.
Can I ask a question? At what point do you decide not to issue a warning? Like, do you have to catch them twice? Or 3 times? I mean...
So that's a tricky question, but everybody that stopped in our system, that's logged in our system, stays in our system. So for instance, if I stop somebody 2 weeks ago and I stop them again tomorrow, it will show what that call was coded, whether they were given a warning or whether they were issued a citation. So if you have somebody that stopped for speeding 2 weeks ago and they get a warning, if I stop them, then they're more than likely going to get a citation. But it's the discretion of the officer. It just depends on, I was telling somebody, I stopped somebody on Okaloosa Island many years ago. I stopped the lady that was running 90 miles an hour, but she was giving birth to a baby. So obviously we didn't write her a ticket, and she had the baby in the EMS rig right behind her vehicle. So it's the discretion of the deputy. I would like to tell you that we would write half. I've stopped a vehicle that's had 2 warnings prior to getting a citation, and what I try not to do is, I personally, in my 26 years of law enforcement experience, I try not to write somebody a ticket that's never had a ticket, that's not in the system, that doesn't have a ticket, that just had that moment where they were running a little bit over the speed limit. I've made it a point throughout my career not to write that individual a ticket. But attitude goes a long way too. So, I mean, if you got a really good attitude when you get stopped, it goes a long way. So it just depends. It just depends on the deputy and discretion of the deputy.
Thank you.
Thank you. The last thing I have, I was talking with Lance, and this is just going to be a work in progress. We obviously know the busy season's coming, and we have no parking signs up and down Scenic 98, and those are decorations. That's all they are. They don't mean anything, because all we can do is write some citations, but unless you found something else, Lance, it was our understanding that we're going to need other legislation, if you will, to put a towing portion of that into our toolbox. Not advocating to make this a zero tolerance and tow every vehicle, but right now we're a paper tiger. If we've got vehicles, I've got pictures, I just decided not to even show them tonight, but there's cars parked up against the no parking sign, like ha 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 type thing, okay? And all I'm saying is we've got to do something to put that tool in our toolbox, so when Joey goes out there and whatnot, and there is something, right now legally, with a safety issue, the sheriff's office can certainly tow. But just a straight up no parking infraction, all we can do is write a ticket, and people know that. So I don't know what our next step is to ask, staff to look at that. Again, I just think it's a tool that we ought to have in our toolbox to have if and when we need it. Right now, we don't have it.
There is something that we can do if council wants to go in this direction. There's state statutes that tell us exactly what needs to be on a sign and how far apart these signs need to be. And if we abide by that, then we can tow at any time. The problem with it is sign clutter, because the distance between the signs, and I don't have the statute right in front of me, but it's a very short distance, somewhere around 20 feet. So if you're looking down a roadway and every 20 feet there's a sign, we can do that. If you want to see an example of that, we did it in the Joe's Bayou boat ramp parking lot. We actually did follow state statute there and placed the signage at the required distance with all the information, and we can do that. And Joey, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, that is one option that we have in our toolbox if we want to go that route.
That's correct. There's some options that we got there. Yes, sir.
Okay, I want to understand this because we went over this ad nauseum when we talked about signage. They had to be so many feet apart, which is why all the Shira people have signs ever so often. We talked about a roving tow truck. People didn't want to do the roving tow truck, but the discussion was that the signs would take care of it. If they were parked in front of a no parking, we could cite or tow. So now I'm hearing the exact opposite. I thought all this time that we could tow. I mean, what? Am I nuts? Did I hear the whole 1,000 conversations we had about this wrong?
The signs, we can issue a citation. Now, your signs that are going to be towed, you have to have them clearly marked with a phone number and follow the Florida state statute. So they have to follow the Florida state statute, have to be reflected so many feet, have to have the number of the towing company, have to say towaway zone, and so on and so forth. That's under your tow ordinances. It states under your tow ordinance that under paragraph 2, towing vehicles is a violation that causes safety hazards or to other vehicles, pedestrians, or the liability of city's interest to such roadways, right-of-ways, maintenance, public utility, repairs, and maintenance. So that's when we can tow. If we pull up on a car and it's in an intersection and we deem it a hazard, we can tow that. But for your right-of-ways, or we're going to deem it no parking, we have to make sure that it's, marked with the tow company.
So I don't know if it's just Preble that had the wrong impression, but I guarantee you people out there had the same impression I did, and we thought y'all could tow. So I don't know where the lapse was, or I don't know whose fault, if it was anyone's fault or just a misunderstanding, but I'm irritated. I think this is something we need to address, and I thought it had been addressed. Does anyone else up here remember this? I mean,
way back when with Public Works, I mean, from way back when you first got on a council, this question's been asked dozens and dozens of times. Okay, and I just chalk this up to sins of the past. Again, this had to do with staff that wasn't even here. The current staff wasn't necessarily involved in it. I totally agree with you. You're right about this. Gobs and gobs of statements in the past. I just know it's an issue right now, and all I'm looking to do is try to work on it and have it as a tool if we need it. Okay. There's certain areas along Scenic 98 on some of those subdivisions. In that area that they're parking, they have sprinklers in that thing, and those cars are parking on the sprinklers. They're doing damage and stuff like that. So there's a need. Again, we're not trying to make it the tow truck capital. We're not going to tow every car realistically, but Joey's got to have that availability if and when on a case-by-case basis.
well, and I remember Mr. Morgan, and maybe it was a different issue, but it's something. Why are we doing something and spending the money on something if we can't enforce it? And the whole point in putting up this signage was so that we would be able to enforce it. And so now all these people or the city or whomever it is spent the time and effort to put up these signs, and now we can't tow, which means now they're going to have to come up with new signs. And I mean, what a waste of time and money.
Councilmember Ramswell, with all respect to the frustration I know that you're feeling, I feel some frustration too, but I do understand that it's not a waste of time. There's a difference between being able to have the legal authority to issue the citation and tow. And both required signage, but we only got the stuff that can issue citations. So, knowing what the law says, always said, it's not new, why don't we have Mr. Minchell and anybody else on council that wants to have this discussion identify a couple of problem areas, and then we can discuss adding the required signage that would give authority for towing in certain areas. Because we already have the ability to write citations, but we don't have the right to tow. So if there are problems in Crystal Beach, let's identify a couple places where we can add the additional language to those really bad problematic areas, and then also discuss some other places. I don't think it's as insurmountable as you think.
It's not that it's insurmountable, it's just that I thought this is what we had done, and I know that several of those Crystal Beach people felt the same way. I mean, I don't know where the disconnect happened, but clearly we have to.
I think we can get it solved before season gets here, so let's get on it.
It's a couple of songs.
Well, so the
It's not-
question is...
it's a lot more than a couple,
My
but yeah.
question is to the city manager is, I mean, you can't necessarily target, I understand what Parker said, but if we talk about this one piece of real estate here, they know they can tow there, so they're going to move there. So that's not going to, I'm just saying, do you come back to us with some ideas? Again, following the law. Okay, as far as the signage is concerned, the current signs that are there wouldn't have to be removed. The tow trucks, typically, the companies that do that provide signs, and you just add that on there because it has blah, 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 this is my contact number and things like that. So it wouldn't have to necessarily go back to the drawing board on signs. You just have to add additional signage. Just maybe, Lance, if you want to get with Joey, I mean, I'm just asking you to look into it and come back with some ideas. I mean, realizing that the answer is we know we have to follow the law. Okay, is it more trouble than it's worth? And we'll just say, okay, we're not going to tow, we're just going to write tickets? Okay. Again, it was a surprise that, to some that we can't.
I'm happy to look into it, and if you don't mind shooting me specific, if you guys do have specific areas, please shoot those to me, and we'll take a specific look at those. It's not hard to make this happen. I would recommend that if we're going to do it, that we try to stick within our brand and keep our signs all looking consistent with the way that council wants all of our signage to look, instead of depending on the tow company to do it. That's all I'm saying. I don't know what sign we would end up with. It may not be what you would want to see out in Crystal Beach. But yeah, I'm happy to bring back some suggestions for that.
Just so we don't get bogged down in this, I got Mr. Morgan, then Mr. Braden, and then we'll just move on to the next subject. Go ahead, Mr. Morgan.
Yeah, we've talked about the parking and towing kind of ad nauseum, and I have no idea where the final discussion went. We talked about it so much, I don't know where we settled, and I think we settled on something that was probably pretty confusing. But I will say this about towing and all our properties, that, we have neighbors that park on our property. It takes towing. You don't have to tow much to get people to quit parking where they're not supposed to. So it's not like we're going to tow 100 vehicles next year. If you tow 10 cars, well, the short-term rental companies that are the offenders, because they don't have enough parking, they will get word out to their guests that do not park here or you will get towed. Word travels fast. You tow 10, 20 cars. This summer, people will quit parking there. That'll solve the problem.
Mr. Braden?
Thanks. I thought staff provided us with something
Coming back to you, Steve.
a while back showing us what it would take to tow vehicles and no parking, that the tow signs had to be, so many feet. You had to see it. We just couldn't put tow signs at the main entrances to get into Crystal Beach. It was insane, the amount of signage that was got to be out there to be able to tow and no parking. So I don't know if that was something staff can, maybe an old report or something that we had about a year past, maybe 2. Thanks, Mayor.
My final thought on this, Lance, for clarification, I think it would help council. Would you just get the lawyers or whatever and send everybody a copy of that Florida statute, the verbiage and that? That way they can understand what it says. And I agree with Chatham. This social media will do the work for us on this, just like social media will do it on Airport Road. That, again, we're not advocating going out there with a wolf pack of tow trucks and just start towing. It's just one of those things called, when there's a case-by-case basis, when we do it, on those rare occasions we would do it, the word will certainly get out. But the point is, like I say all the time, it's crazy to have rules that we can't enforce. Okay, now granted, we're enforcing no parking, but when you've got these vehicles that are literally knocking down no parking signs, snubbing their nose at the city, like I don't care if it's there or not, there's a time when some of these vehicles need to be towed. That's all. And thank you. And that's all I have tonight, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Mr. Overdeer. Mr. Marlar?
Well, I only had one thing. Now I got a couple of things to quickly ask. To piggyback on the crosswalks, we paid for those and DOT was supposed to be paying us back. Have they ever paid us back?
Yes, we got reimbursed.
Okay, we got reimbursed on that. All right, the other thing I had talked to Webb and to Lance on a one-on-one meeting I had with them on Thursday. At the elementary school, at one time, I'm doing this informing the council that I've asked Webb and Lance to look into this. At one time, we had 4x4 posts along the right-of-way there from the intersection of Kelly and Beach going toward Maine to keep people from parking on our wonderful grass that now we don't have any grass again because people are parking there. In particular, I've noticed there were vehicles parked right directly, since the intersection kind of doglegs a little bit from Beach, from the two sections of Beach, right directly in front and also in front of a residence, and there's literally no grass left. So I'd asked Webb and Lance to look into it. I don't know if y'all have had a chance to do it now, but I would prefer to see those posts back up there, because that's, to me, that area there, at least up to the lake itself, is still a dangerous area, and I don't understand, after all the, the school system has tried to get the parents to park or go to the bus ramps, why they still do it that way, because that, to me, also puts the children in danger, even though we have a crosswalk there. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Marler. Mr. Destin.
To answer that.
Oh, Lance, you want to answer that? Sorry.
We're still looking into it and see if we can get those back up.
What happened to them? Because I feel like I remember those.
I would need to look into it. Some of them, I know the homeowners on those properties were not in favor of them being there.
It's right away.
It is right away. This has been a couple of years back, so, right?
Remember, they got to mow around them. All right, Mr. Destin.
Thanks, Mayor. Just one quick thing to piggyback off of Rodney's enthusiasm to start the park. I'm also enthusiastic to finish it once it gets started. To that extent, Mr. Morgan's father once told me that the only time he ever saw a municipal or government construction project end on time was when there were incentives for the contractor to finish on time or ahead of schedule. You can threaten them legally with the contract that they signed to build the construction until you're blue in the face with liquidated damages, whatnot, all sorts of penalties, but a carrot often works better than a stick. And to that end, I'd like Kyle to bring us back some ideas on perhaps some early completion bonuses, that provisions that could be added to the final contract that is executed with whomever we select to construct the Royal Melvin Heritage Park. There's a bunch of different ways to skin the cat, but perhaps something as a per day increase of several hundred or $1,000 with a maximum not to exceed something like that. I know there's a bunch of different examples to do it, and you might be astonished how early they finish the project. So if that's okay with council, and we can probably do the head bob.
Yeah, I don't think we need it. Everybody good with that? I don't think we need a vote. Let's go ahead and just consensus to look into it. Kyle, if you would, please.
I'll bring that back to council.
That's all I've got, Mayor. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Morgan.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Okay, the only thing I got is I'd like to get a consensus. The group that are putting together the ideas for the Destin Event Center, we talked about doing a workshop, and I'd like to throw a couple dates at you, Monday the 24th of February or Thursday, March 5th. That's a month. We have some groups that want to, some support groups that want to come in and talk about that, moms and dads and citizens. So do you want to do a monkey survey, Lance, send that out? But those are the two dates, unless you guys, is Monday the 24th, 6 to 7? I don't think it'll be more an hour and a half. Does that sound good to you? Monday the 24th of February. Or Thursday, March 5th. Monday, I think. We're kind of tuned into Monday, so
Monday.
If it serves the court well, let's just do the, if you would, Lance, put Destin Event Center workshop Thursday, March 5th here at the annex. Got it? That's it. That's all I got. Kim?
Nothing tonight, thanks.
Kyle?
Yes, I am seeking a motion to execute a scope of services agreement with Taylor Engineering for East Pass emergency navigation, channel dredging, and Holiday Isle beach restoration. If I can get that motion.
So moved.
Thank you.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I got a second. Any discussion on this? It's all in the document there that we're provided for. You can read back through it if you like, and call Kyle if you have any specific questions. Seeing no further discussion. So moved, unanimous. And we're at the public comments from our night's activities. I guess I covered everybody, right? If anyone would like to come up, you got 3 minutes. Just state your name and your address and have at it.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, and city staff. My name is Larry Caesar. I live at 14 Indian Bayou Drive in Indian Bayou, and I will attest that when you do volunteer, you are a volunteer for a long time. I've been the president of the Homeowners Association since 2003. I'm here tonight on behalf of the Board of Directors of Indian Bayou Owners Association. The subject, again, is speeding. Speeding in Indian Bayou has been a problem for as long as I've been here, and it came up again 2 weeks ago at our first quarterly board meeting. I noticed it more in the last couple of months. Since I've been retired, I'm walking the dog a lot more, and I did not realize that it was as bad as it is. The speed limit in Indian Bayou is 25, and it's not uncommon to see people doing 35 or 40. We've been working with Tom Henry, who was our liaison to the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office, to change our hours for off-duty patrols during the daylight hours instead of the evenings. We've talked over the years, we've talked about speed humps, speed bumps, stop signs. I'm here tonight because I was brought to my attention that you were talking about the signs, and so I thought this was a good opportunity to come bring this up. One of the actions that I took at the meeting 2 weeks ago was to come to this. We brought up the subject of the fixed signs that have the radar to indicate your speed in relation to the speed limit. And someone brought that subject up and asked if I would approach the city of Destin and the council to see if they would, in fact, get one of those for us to put on one of the problem spots, which is Country Club Drive East. I said, I probably already knew the answer to that question before I got up here, but my action item was to come ask, and so I'm asking. However, having listened to the conversation earlier about the questionable utility of the signs, my experience was when they had the sign on Preble's Yard, when it flashed at me, I instinctively took my foot off the gas. And so there are pros and cons. And so the thought occurred to me, listening to y'all, that Indian Bayou would love to be the guinea pigs. If you would like to get us one of those signs and install it for us on Country Club Drive East, my proposal would be we would love to gather the data for you and provide you with some data to see if we can get you some better indication of the effectiveness or not. So my proposal is we would love to have one of those signs. If you would like to, if you'd be interested in funding that for us, we'd be glad to help gather some data. My second question is, if we decide to buy one on our own, who would I speak with at the city to see if we could get installation of that approved?
Our city manager.
City manager, okay.
Yep, he's the man.
So I'll leave you with that thought. You don't have to give me an answer now. I don't want to put you on the spot, but that's what I
I'll
wanted to talk
volunteer
about.
my yard again. I'm right before their curve coming in, so we get a lot of people
Thanks, sir.
flying in. And we had a lot of little kids for a while right there, and it was just terrifying. A lot of those little kids have moved away, and mine's grown up, but it's a huge problem, and it kind of waxes and wanes, but it is building back up again for sure.
Thank you. Anyone else like to give their 3 minutes of education for us? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned.